Star Wars 7x7, episode 2070. Stunt casting, yes indeed, features in season 3, episode 22 of the Clone Wars, the final episode of the season and the second half of that two-part story arc. This is Wookiee Hunt, and it features a very familiar furry face. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. So yes, Wookiee Hunt is Season 3, Episode 22, and it picks up where we left off from Padawan Lost. Ahsoka is on the run, having lost one of her younglings that she'd taken under her wing, Khalifa, so she manages to get back to the place where the younglings had been hiding out, and unfortunately has to share the bad news with the other surviving younglings. But they decide to go on the attack together. They decide to try to get off the planet if they can. And the way they're going to do it is take the fight to them. Take the fight to their prisoner dropship, which you would hope would go according to plan, but does not. In fact, that has to do really with the Trandoshans, who are kind of nutty. I mean, Ahsoka gets into the cockpit of this thing, and the Trandoshan pilot just starts shooting up all the equipment trying to kill her. Ultimately wrecks the ship and that goes down in a huge crash not before Ahsoka is able to release the prison pods. Turns out it was only carrying one prisoner, and that prisoner is none other than Chewbacca. Yes, indeed. In universe, this is the earliest we've seen Chewbacca in any story appearance whatsoever. And they do right by Chewbacca in this episode. He is able to use both his brains and his brawn. He's able to salvage parts from the ruined drop ship to build a transmitter, which he says could get a signal to Kashyyyk because it's close enough. And Ahsoka is able to translate this because apparently she understands Shriwook, which is very great and helpful. The transmitter doesn't necessarily work on the first attempt, but it does eventually work, which we'll play in later. And on the brawn side, he really gets into a big tangle with the Trandoshans. It seems like there's some Greco-Roman wrestling in the animation. Like there's a lot of like upper body grappling between Wookiees and Trandoshans in this episode, but Chewbacca gets his punches in. One punches one Trandoshan, knocks him out cold. And probably the funniest moment of the episode is when one of the younglings is trying to do a Jedi mind trick on a captured Trandoshan. It's not working, and Chewbacca pounds him on the side of the head, and that apparently makes the Trandoshan woozy enough for the mind trick to be able to take hold. He just clocks him. It's hysterical. And that whole thing ties into Plan B, which was if they couldn't commandeer that prisoner dropship, well, maybe they can commandeer a speeder and get up to the mobile platform that the Trandoshans are hanging out in. That's what they do. They get this mind-tricked Trandoshan to call for a speeder, and then they take over the speeder and fly up. And there's a pitched battle up there with Garnak and all of his minions, and of course it looks like it's going to go their way, and then suddenly it doesn't, and it looks like everybody's going to get wiped out. All of our heroes are going to get wiped out. But that's where we get back to the transmitter finally working and getting a signal out to Kashyyyk. And Wookiees arrive to save the day at the last minute, including Tarful, the general that we see in Revenge of the Sith. But Wookiees themselves are not piloting ships coming to this Trandoshan moon's platform. In fact, it's one ship, and it's piloted by a bounty hunter named Sugi. Sugi actually has appeared in a couple of previous Clone Wars episodes, and also has a niece that you might have heard of. The niece of Sugi is Jaz Amari, who is a bounty hunter that eventually joins the rebel team led by Nora Wexley and Wedge Antilles in the Aftermath novels. And so the battle is finished, the battle is won, the Jedi eventually arrive, and there's a final scene with Ahsoka and Anakin that is really beautiful. Anakin feels terrible about having left Ahsoka behind and is apologizing profusely, and I want to share that with you here.
Ahsoka, I am so sorry.
For what?
For letting you go. For letting you get taken. It was my fault.
No, Master, it wasn't your fault.
I should have paid more attention. I should have tried harder.
You already did everything you could. Everything you had to do. When I was out there, alone, all I had was your training and the lessons you taught me. And because of you, I did survive. And not only that, I was able to lead others to survive as well.
I don't know what to say.
I do. Thank you, Master.
You're welcome, my Padawan.
And there you go. That's how Season 3 of The Clone Wars ends. That's how Wookiee Hunt ends. That's how Ahsoka's two-part story arc ends here as well. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about Chewbacca's appearance, one particular note in the end credits of the show I wanted to share with you. Stay tuned. Hey Rebel Rouser, I've made some changes to the asteroid belt level at patreon.com/SW7X7, and they are all with sponsors in mind. So if you want to get the word out about your business, your product, your service to a dedicated Star Wars audience, then please check out patreon.com/SW7X7 and look for the asteroid belt level for details. Again, that's patreon.com/SW7X7. Welcome back. So, you know in the end credits when a celebrity, a known person plays themselves in a movie, you know, when you see that on movies or TV shows or whatever? Well, in the end credits for this episode of The Clone Wars, Chewbacca is listed as played by himself. It says, as himself, Chewbacca. And there's a note below it that says, special thanks to Peter Mayhew for being the heart and soul of Chewbacca. So this does seem to imply that the role of Chewbacca in this episode is not actually played, well, I mean, it is played by Peter Mayhew, I would presume, because they're taking vocalizations that have been made by Peter Mayhew in the past and using those to create the performance of Chewbacca in this episode. And there you go. That's it for Ahsoka's arc, which features a surprise first ever appearance in canon timeline by Chewbacca. And that is going to do it for this episode of the show. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the galaxy you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2020 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.